In this video, we're going to go over the basic building block of HTML, the HTML element. And then in the next video, we will examine the structure of HTML. And in the third video, we will actually start coding, and we'll do our very first web page. Now, HTML is a document, and we deal with documents all the time. When you read a book, that's a type of document. When you fill out a survey, that's a type of document. And it's no different with HTML. HTML is a document, and once you understand how HTML works, it's rather easy to create a web document. Now, a web browser will take that HTML document and display it to the web user. So that's where everything starts. It starts with an HTML web document. But again, as I said before we code our first web page, you need to understand what an HTML element is. And that's what we're going to examine in this first video. I will also say that HTML is part of what I like to call the big three: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In part 1 of the series, we will be looking at HTML, and in part 2 of the series, we'll be looking at CSS. So HTML is what's used to define the web document, and there's two types of things you do. You specify content on web page, and that includes images, text, video, anything that might appear on a web page. And it also creates the structure of the web page. So that's another thing that HTML elements do. So again, HTML elements are the basic building block of the web. Now, HTML elements always start out with angled brackets, and you can see that right here. These are two angled brackets, one that's less than and one that's greater than. And that's the starting point for an HTML element. So you have to have these two angle brackets. But by themselves, they don't mean anything. You need to put a tag inside these angle brackets, and you can see we've done that right here. There's a P, and that is the tag part of the element. And notice we've broken this up a little bit more. And that is, HTML elements usually have an opening tag and a closing tag. So this is the opening tag, and this is the closing tag. And then everything in between there is our content. That's what goes inside the HTML element. And I also want to point out that you'll notice that the closing tag has a /. So that denotes that this is a closing tag. So again, we have an opening tag and we have a closing tag. And there's a character inside these angle brackets that is the tag. And this P stands for paragraph. So usually you put text inside a paragraph. That's a type of element. And so there are different types of elements. Many different types of elements that we'll be looking at throughout the series. The H1 is a heading. This will actually create a heading. And the body is one of the most important elements on all of our web code, usually goes right inside the body element. So everything that gets displayed on the web page will be between these two tags. Now, some people get hung up on the difference between a tag and an element, and actually they are used pretty much interchangeably. You'll hear people refer to this as a body tag. People refer to all of this as an element. And as I said, they pretty much are the same thing. So if you want to call this the body tag, you can. If you want to call this a body element, that's fine. I'm going to refer to these as elements. So another way to think of the different types of elements is that the tag inside here denotes a different element. And so in other words, a browser will realize, hey, this is a paragraph element, and there'll be some text in here. So the different types of elements describe what content is going to be used inside that element. So again, a paragraph element will have text. A browser will know that the H1 element is a heading, and the browser will know that because this is a body element, this will contain everything inside the main browser window. So that's why we have different elements. In the next video, we're going to talk about the structure of HTML and how we put elements into a web document.